tardes, Evans, y en esta ocasión estamos leyendo de The Midnight Library de Matt Haig. Hoy el capítulo The Podcast of Revelations. So, it has been a crazy year for you, Marcelo began, in his very good English. Oh yeah, it has been quite alright, said Nora, trying to sound like a rock star. Now, if I may ask you about the album, Pottersville, you wrote all the lyrics, right? Mostly, yes, Nora guessed, staring at the small familiar mole on her left hand. She wrote all of them, interjected Joanna. Marcelo nodded, while the other guy, still smiling toothily, fiddled about with sound levels via laptop. I think Feathers is my favorite track, said Marcelo as the drinks arrived. I'm glad you like it. Nora tried to think of a way she could get out of this interview. A headache, a bad stomach. But the one I'd like to talk about first is the first one you decided to release. Stay Out of My Life. It seemed such a personal statement. Nora forced a smile. The lyrics say it all, really. Obviously, there has been some speculation about whether it refers to the, how do you say it in English? Restraining order, offered Joanna helpfully. Yes, the restraining order, said Nora, taken aback. Well, I prefer to get it all out in the song. I find that stuff difficult to talk about. Yes, I understand. It is just that in your recent Rolling Stone interview, you talked a little about your former boyfriend, Dan Lord, and mentioned how difficult it was to get the restraining order against him after he stalked you. Didn't he try to break into your house? Then tell reporters that he wrote the lyrics for Beautiful Sky? Jesus. She hovered at the intersection of tears and laughter and managed somehow to give neither. I wrote it when I was still with him, but he didn't like it. He didn't like me being in this band. He hated it. He hated my brother. He hated Ravi. He hated Ella, who was one of the original members. Anyways, Dan was always very jealous. This was so surreal. In my life, the life he'd supposedly wanted, Dan was so bored in this marriage to Nora he was having an affair, while in this life he was breaking into her house because he couldn't stand her success. He's a dick, said Nora. I don't know the Portuguese swear word for a terrible person. Cabrao. It means someone's dick. Or an asshole, the younger guy added, stone-faced. Yeah, well, he's a cabrao. He turned out to be someone else entirely. It's weird the way when your life changes, people act in different ways. The price of fame, I suppose. And you wrote a song called Henry David Thoreau. You don't get many songs named after philosophers. I know. Well, when I studied philosophy at university, he was my favorite, hence my tattoo, and it made a marginally better song, little title than Immanuel Kant. She was getting into the swing of it now. It wasn't too hard to act a life when it was the one she was destined for. And Howl, obviously, such a powerful song, #1 in 22 countries, Grammy Award-winning video with a Hollywood A-list cast. I suppose you are done talking about it? I suppose yes. Joanna went to get herself another honey cake. Marcelo smiled gently as he pressed on. For me it seemed so primal. The song, I mean. Like you were letting everything out, and then I discovered you wrote it on the very night you fired your last manager before Joanna, after you found out he'd been ripping you off. Yeah, that wasn't good, she improvised. It was such a betrayal. I was a big Labyrinth fan before Howl, but that was the one for me. That and Lighthouse Girl. Howl was where I was like Nora Seed is a genius. The lyrics are pretty abstract, but the way you just let out that rage was so soft and soulful and powerful all at once. It's like early Cure fused with Frank Ocean via the Carpenters and Tame Impala. Nora tried and failed to imagine what that could possibly sound like. He started to sing, to everyone's surprise, silence the music to improve the tune, stop the fake smiles, and howl at the moon. Nora smiled and nodded as if she knew these lyrics. Yeah, I was just howling. Marcelo's face became serious. He seemed genuinely concerned for her. You've had so much shit to deal with these last few years: stalkers, bad managers, the fake feuds, the court case, the copyright issues, the messy breakup with Ryan Bailey, the reception of the last album, Rehab, that incident in Toronto, that time you collapsed from exhaustion in Paris, personal tragedy, drama, and all that media intrusion. Why do you think the press hates you so much? Nora began to feel a bit queasy. Was this what fame was like? Like permanent bittersweet cocktail of worship and assault? It was no wonder so many famous people went off the rails when the rails veered in every direction. It was like being slapped and kissed at the same time. I don't know, it's pretty crackers. I mean, do you ever wonder what your life would have been like if you had decided to take a different path? Nora listened to this as she stared at the bubbles rising in her mineral water. I think it is easy to imagine there are easier paths, she said, realizing something for the first time. But maybe there are no easy paths. There are just paths. In one life, I might be married. In another, I might be working in a shop. I might have said yes to this cute guy who asked me out for a coffee. In another, I might be researching glaciers in the Arctic Circle. In another, I might be an Olympic swimming champion. Who knows? Every second of every day, we are entering a new universe. And we spend so much time wishing our lives were different, comparing ourselves to other people and to other versions of ourselves. When really, most lives contain degrees of good and degrees of bad. Marcelo and Joanna and the other Brazilian guy were staring at her wide-eyed, but she was on a roll now, freewheeling. There are patterns to life, rhythms. It is so easy, while trapped in just one life, to imagine the times of sadness or tragedy or failure or fear are a result of that particular experience, that it is a byproduct of living a certain way rather than simply living. I mean, it would have made things a lot easier if we understood there was no way of living that we can immunize you against sadness, and that sadness is intrinsically part of the fabric of happiness. You can't have one without the other. Of course, they come in different degrees and quantities, and there is no life where you can be in a state of sheer happiness forever. And imagining there is just breeds more unhappiness. No sé. In the life you're in. That is a great answer, Marcelo said after he was sure she was finished. But tonight, I would say at the concert you seemed happy. When you played Bridge Over Troubled Water instead of How, that was such a powerful statement. It was saying, I am strong. It felt like you were telling us, your fans, that you were okay. And so, how is touring going? Well, it's great, and I just thought I'd send a message that, I am out there living my best life, but I miss home after a while. Which one? Asked Marcelo with a quietly cheeky smile. I mean, do you feel more at home in London or LA or on the Amalfi Coast? It seemed this was the life where her carbon footprint was the highest. I don't know, I suppose I would say London. Marcelo took a sharp intake of breath as if the next question was something He had to swim under. He scratched his beard. Okay, but I suppose it must be hard for you, as I know you shared that flat with your brother. Why would it be hard? Joanna gave her a curious glance from above her cocktail. Marcelo looked at her with sentimental fondness. His eyes seemed glazed. I mean, he went on, after a delicate sip of beer, your brother was such a big part of your life, such a big part of the band was. So much dread in such a small word, like a stone falling through water. She remembered asking Ravi about her brother before the encore. She remembered the crowd's reaction when she had mentioned her brother on stage. He's still around. He was here tonight. She means she feels him, said Joanna. They all feel him. He was such a strong spirit, troubled but strong. It was a tragedy how the drink and drugs and the whole life got to him in the end. What are you talking about? Nora asked. She was no longer acting a life. She genuinely needed to know. Marcelo looked sad for her. You know, it's only been 2 years since his death, his overdose, Nora gasped. She didn't arrive back in the library instantly because she hadn't absorbed it. She stood up, dazed, and staggered out of the suite. Nora, laughed Joanna nervously. Nora? She got in the lift and went down to the bar to Ravi. You said Joe was smoozing the media. What? You said. I asked you what Joe was doing, and you said smoozing the media. He put his beer down and stared at her like a riddle. And I was right. She was schmoozing the media. She? He pointed over to Joanna, who was looking aghast as she headed over from the lifts in the lobby. Yeah, Joe. She was with the press, and Nora felt the sadness like a punch. Oh no, she said. Oh, Joe. Oh, Joe. Oh. And the Grand Hotel bar disappeared. The table, the drinks, Joanna, Marcelo, the sound guy, the hotel guests, Ravi, the others, the marble floor, the barman, the waiters, the chandeliers, flowers, all became nothing at all.